Welcome to We Are the Plan podcast. We are a circle of women creating long-term health, strength, confidence, peace, power, and connection. I'm your host, Caroline Dunn, a personal trainer, nutrition coach, and yoga teacher, and a geek obsessed with learning how to live the biggest, fullest, most joyful life, and helping you to tap into the magic within and do the same. Together, let's explore deep health, all aspects of our health, fitness, and wellness, because it's time to stop putting our health in boxes, and it's time to care about the whole beautiful, messy you. So here you'll find expert interviews, meditations, breathing, and inspiration to move towards a happier and healthier you. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome to today's podcast. And I'm excited to welcome Jools onto the podcast today. Now, Jools is a solution-focused clinical hypnotherapist, a mum and a dog mum. So welcome, Jools.
Hi, Caroline. Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
No, we're really excited to have you. We're going to share 3 words to find out how we are. And I always think it's fair that I start first on this. So my 3 words about how I'm feeling today is contented. I'm feeling satisfied, fulfilled with like this week. I'm feeling grateful that I get to have another conversation with an amazing woman. And I'm also curious because I literally know nothing about hypnotherapy. So I'm really excited to dive into what that is all about. How about you, Jools?
Oh my goodness, you've set the bar high. I am grateful, like you, to be asked to be on this podcast, which is amazing. Thank you. I am feeling quite happy right now because everybody is where they need to be. The husband's gone to work. My son Alex has got himself into school. Everything is fine. The dog is yet to be walked, so that can be worked on. And I am also feeling just really happy to kind of be where I am at the moment with everything. Business is going really well. My clients are thriving, and nothing gives me more joy. I'll talk about that a little bit later on, but nothing gives me more joy than seeing my clients transform over such a short amount of time as well. So all of those things in abundance right now.
Amazing. So I want to dive right into the juicy stuff, Jools. And I'd like to know about your story, kind of where you started, what your journey's been, and how you've kind of ended up doing what you're doing today.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so we backtrack when my story starts at the kind of beginning of the pandemic. And I think a lot of people with the pandemic have got their own personal tale, their own personal story. So for me, this is what actually did lead me into doing what I'm doing right now. So it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And if you remember, Caroline, how kind of scary that all was for a lot of people, the part where everything shut down, doctors' services, hospitals, everything shut down. And sadly, at that point in time, my mum was going through a few health concerns at the time, which she couldn't gain access to any kind of medical help straight away. So essentially she was bleeding. And she was obviously a woman in her early 70s, and that obviously causes a lot of concern. To cut that story short, when she did access the medical help and advice that she needed and the tests, etc., sadly, she was diagnosed with terminal cancer. So this was in around the April time, late April, May time of that 2020 year. And obviously a diagnosis of terminal cancer is horrendous in any way, shape or form at any point in anyone's life. But at that particular point, when we had the pandemic on top of that, it just compounded everything. Not only for my lovely mum, but obviously for me. We were exceptionally close. Like, really, really close, like best friends. We'd go for coffee together. We'd go to the spa together on birthdays. We'd go to the theatre together. It was that kind of relationship. And I know that I am very blessed to have that relationship with my mum, because not a lot of people do, or some people don't. So, but I'm sure if you can relate, if you have that relationship, then it was really difficult for me to kind of deal with that. And especially at that point in time when we couldn't even really see each other. So, it was kind of delivering shopping through the window. And you remember those days, don't you, when you couldn't? But to actually have that diagnosis in such the traumatic way that it was. So, we're all in gloves. We're all, they're given to us by the hospital. We're all in masks. We're all in aprons. And we're sitting there kind of all separate around the room. And you get that diagnosis and you can't even hug. It was just awful. So at the time, obviously, if we remember back then, I've got he's just turned 13 now, but he was in his primary school years then. And my son Alex, I was homeschooling as well. So I was homeschooling. I was in a really stressful corporate role, which I was actually acting up to the next grade at the time. So I had quite a lot of leadership responsibilities. Everything was kind of on me at that point. So sadly, this started taking its toll on me, both kind of emotionally and physically as well. So I did suffer from anxiety previous to this diagnosis as well, I probably should say. So anything that kind of adds on top of that really just does kind of exacerbate any other symptoms you've got going on already. So my hair was falling out through stress. I wasn't sleeping. I was barely getting a couple of hours every night, which is not good for anybody. Sleep's one of the most important things that we need. And I was working, essentially. My mum was at home for as long as she could be at home. The diagnosis was 18 months, but sadly she passed away 12 months later. So it was a very, very quick demise, really. It was very, very quick and very painful and very sad, emotionally. So I was working alongside my mum's bed on a laptop in the day and caring for her as much as I could, then trying to rush back at lunchtimes to do the schooling, and my goodness, all of the headaches that it was just. Teachers, I hold my hat off to you. It was hard work, really hard work. I think lots of people can probably relate to that. And so everything just took its toll. And essentially I was signed off from my day job. And I was told because obviously I had a consultation with my GP over the telephone, and I was told I had anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, and depression. And here is some information I'll send you online, and go away and do that. You also gave me tablets as well for antidepressants and sleeping tablets, because obviously I wasn't sleeping. And I looked at everything and I weighed everything up. And at that point in time, that was not the route that I wanted to choose to go down, to take the medication. At that point, I was looking for things that I could do within my own control to try and make myself feel better. And at that point, I didn't want to go down that road. And I'm not saying for any reason that isn't the right thing for some people, because it absolutely is. But for me, I just chose not to at that point. And I thought, let me just see what else I'm able to do. So I started researching and I started looking into it, alternative therapies. And this is when I found solution-focused hypnotherapy. So I literally walked the walk for this kind of therapy, because I've been through it. So I looked into it. I thought, I like what this says. I like how this is looking like it's going to help me. And at the point, I went into this thinking, it looks like it can, but I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure. All I know is that I want to be able to kind of talk to somebody about how I'm feeling, and I knew that I wanted to feel different because I couldn't change the situation, because you can't change these situations, but I knew that I needed for my own mental health, and also to be there for my family, to be there for my son, my husband. I needed something to help me do that, to kind of help me cope with this situation as best as I possibly could. So I had a consultation on the phone, and then I was like, yeah, I'm going to go with this, going to go with this. And I have never looked back. Honestly, what solution focused hypnotherapy enabled me to be able to cope with, it enabled me to be able to cope with, obviously, the anticipatory grief of losing my mum, which is actually something that is quite rarely spoken about, anticipatory grief, when you know somebody's going to pass away. So it helped me to deal with that, but also it helped me to deal with my debilitating anxiety around everything. And then it also helped me to actually work out what I really wanted to do in life. Like, I was unhappy in my corporate role, and I knew that I wanted to do something different. I just did not know what that was. I had no clue what that was, but I knew that what I was in right at that moment was not something that was aligning to me and my values. And I knew I needed to do something different. And hypnotherapy gave me those tools to be able to unearth that in me. And I am so grateful to have found that. And then I just got to the end of my sessions, and I said to my hypnotherapist at the time, I need to know more. I am just a different person, and I need to know more. So she told me where she trained, and I looked into it, and which is the Clifton practice, which is the gold standard of hypnotherapy training schools. They are fantastic. And I applied, I had an interview, I passed, and I qualified, and this is where I am now. Sorry, that was really long, wasn't it?
No, that was amazing. And like, thank you for sharing so much of the painful part of your journey there. And you know what really struck me, just to kind of loop back to a little bit earlier in your story, is the amount of perhaps the words to describe it as self-advocacy in that you saw these different routes given to you, almost like a medical route, an alternative route. And as you say, none of those routes are better or worse than the other, but you chose in that. And I think sometimes we don't realize that we have a choice in some of those routes that we can take. And again, when you found the hypnotherapy, it sounds like you had a deep seat within yourself to know what felt good for you, what felt the right path forwards.
100%, 100%. It really, really did. And like I said, like that for me was a choice that was right for me at that time. And I never look back, because I just think it's given me so much. So much. Making that choice has just given me so much. And when I see my clients now, and we talk about, this is something that I think that you and your clients kind of probably talk about, that everything is within you. Like, you have those innate resources to be able to do what it is that you want to achieve. You just don't realize it. And this is what solution focused hypnotherapy unearthed in me, like I said, and I was able to kind of then propel myself forward and take action on what it was that I wanted. Yeah,
Absolutely. It's like, it's not a coincidence that this podcast is We Are the Plan.
Yeah, exactly.
Everything is within us. So the idea of this solution focused hypnotherapy, and I'm sure other people have this question too. Can you tell me exactly what that is and what it means?
Of course Amazing. I can. So solution focused hypnotherapy, it's quite a modern type of therapy. And essentially what we do is we combine psychotherapy with hypnosis. So The first part of our session, the sessions are normally, my sessions are an hour long. The first half an hour, roughly, of my sessions are the psychotherapy part. And what we do in that part of our session is very different to other types of therapy and counselling and, well, lots of different things. But we essentially take you from where you are now to where you want to be and how you want to feel. What we don't do is we don't unpick and unravel a problem of the past, because when we do that, when we are looking back at our past and looking back at the traumas that we've all gone through, we tend to stay seated in that problem, or we stay seated in the past. So essentially what we're doing is we are helping clients to move forward and find the right path for them and move them into those feelings of how they want to be, rather than unpicking that painful past. So like I said, it's a very modern, it's a neuro-based, neuroscientific based therapy, whereby we take time to explain to our clients about how the brain works. And this is key to having ownership over how you feel, because sometimes you can, you might know why you feel like that, because you think, oh, it's my circumstances and this is what, you know, this is why I'm feeling like that, but you can't move yourself out of it and you don't understand why. So when you understand how the brain works and why you might be going through these feelings and these physical symptoms, then that gives you that power back to be able to say, right, and now I understand it's not just that, it's not that, it's my brain and it's how it is functioning. So that is crucial, and I talk about that a lot with my clients, especially at the initial consultation, where we would gather the information as to why they've come to see me, what their best hopes are from coming to see me, and how they would like to move forward, what they would like to feel instead of this particular feeling or this particular problem. Yeah. But yeah, that's essentially what it is. And then the second part of our session is the trance, which is the lovely bit that everyone wants to get to. So trance essentially feels like the most relaxed you've ever felt. It's almost like a daydream type state. So you're not asleep, even though you know, lots of kind of publications of hypnotherapists would have you kind of believe, you know, look into my eyes and swinging pendulums. There's none of that in my clinic. So I wanted to say as well that I work with clients online over Zoom, and I also have a clinic in Reigate in Surrey on a Saturday that I see people face to face. And working on Zoom is just as effective as working face to face with me. There is no difference. I had all my sessions over Zoom, obviously, in lockdown. And that's the same for the trance. So, like I said, it's this lovely daydream state. But when we are in that state, we then have access to our subconscious mind. And it's our subconscious mind that really often likes to run the show. And sometimes when we've got unhelpful patterns, unhelpful beliefs, unhelpful, that inner critic, that self-judgment, all of those things that are showing up for us sometimes that don't help us, hypnotherapy can start to move us forward. And we can, when we're in that state, when we're in that lovely, dreamy relaxation, then we can start to embed new programs, new beliefs, new neural pathways that actually take us up to where we need to be. And this all goes with my brain explanation, but we need to be functioning from our, it sounds very scientific, left prefrontal cortex. This is where what needs to run the show, not our subconscious mind, you know, with those negative patterns and beliefs and our experiences and our reactions to those experiences. Yeah. So Does that help a little bit in explaining
Yeah,
it?
definitely. It's fascinating. And actually, just as you were talking about the kind of brain-based part of it, it made me
Mm,
realize that I've heard this explanation before, and you can tell me if this resonates or if it's entirely different. The idea that like, the way that we are feeling now is one particular state, it's one particular neural network. And then in the present, we can then think about, right, well, how do we want to feel? And that would be like the resource state, as in that is the place of creation with you. And that's another neural network. And then the two linking together is then where the change happens. And that can feel really weird to begin with. But my understanding is those two states meeting in the present
yeah.
trickles back down through to previous experiences or memories, hence why there's no need to go digging through the past necessarily. Meeting the two states in the present can find the way forwards. Does that sound
Hmm.
at all like
Yeah,
it matches?
absolutely, absolutely. Neurons that fire together wire together and things,
Yeah.
but I think as well with our, and yeah, I loved your analogy. I loved how you were talking there about the brain, because that is key. It's absolutely key that we understand why we're doing what we're doing, and that we are building up that neural connection, that neural pathway to the balanced assessment part of our brain, which can make that balanced, fair, positive, and it's pretty positive assessment of situations, rather than from coming from a fear-based kind of viewpoint, really.
Yeah.
And our beliefs and kind of how we think, they're formed from a very, very early age, from, even back in the womb to the age of like 7. That's where our beliefs are formed. And sometimes you don't understand why you feel stuck and you can't move forward, because actually this belief that you've got in your mind, that perhaps you might not feel good enough, or we compare ourselves against the next person, this is formed very much from our childhood circumstances, events, and things we're exposed to as children. So whilst I don't go back in time to unpick that past, I make people aware of how and why they might have formed certain beliefs about themselves and their situations. But equally, those are only the stories that we tell ourselves. That's not who you are.
Yeah.
You can be and feel differently. You can step into the direction that you want to go. And it's quite interesting, because sometimes on a conscious level, you don't really kind of understand why things are holding you back, because it's subconscious, below consciousness. This is why. And this is where, we get to work on that. And combined with the psychotherapy part, so the part before our sessions, where we are talking about, let us imagine that. Let us imagine that you wake up tomorrow and everything is as you want it. Yeah. What do you notice that's different? I ask this to my clients. What small thing do you notice that's different? Yeah. And it's, yeah, life changing how people start to view things differently.
Yeah. And I wonder if you could just unpick the trance part for us a bit more, because I've not experienced hypnotherapy myself, but I have seen like stage hypnotherapy. And so
Yeah.
you've kind of touched on this. So I'm just curious, if I was to come to a session with you,
Mm.
what's that trance phase like? Like, what would I experience? How would you set it up? Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So, yeah, don't you just love stage hypnotists? I promise that I will not make you cluck like a chicken. It won't happen.
Yeah.
It's completely different to stage hypnosis, completely, utterly different. So, hypnosis in a therapeutic setting is extremely powerful, extremely relaxing. Um, so, what we do is we will take you on a guided relaxation. So, think of it almost, it has an element of similar feelings to a visualization meditation, if you've ever experienced anything like that. But the difference is I won't tell you to empty your mind. I won't tell you to like, don't think about this, I want you to let your mind, this is when your mind starts coming up with its own solutions to all the things we've spoken about. I want you to let that flow where it wants to go. So it's almost effortless that you have with meditation. Don't get me wrong, I love meditation. I'm not consistent with it, which I should be, but I love it. As part of a mindset routine, perfect. But I'm never going to tell you to empty that mind. So what you're going to feel is you're going to listen to the sound of my voice, and I will gently guide you down, counting, down 10 steps, beautiful stairs, actually, in an old stately home or a country mansion, something that makes you just feel really, really relaxed, and a kind of guided visualization. And it's at that point there when we start to relax and unwind, and then our body relaxes and unwinds, and we start to do a little bit of a body scan, relaxing from head to toe. Because when you relax, when you physically relax, you can mentally relax. And your brain waves will start to change as we go through, and they slow down. And they move from one state of awareness to another. And essentially what we're doing is we are calming down what I like to call your busy beta brainwave. And that's the brainwave that's going off all the time, like this. And we need to change from that busy beta brainwave, and we need to move into our thinking theta brainwave. And when we go in that state, then we can start to come up with our own solutions to our problems. And we feel that, and it may not be like you wake up and you go, ding, I know the answer. It's a process that starts to kind of gradually happen over the course of the time, that we're working together. But it feels like really relaxing, like the most relaxed you've ever felt, like a daydream type state, because those brain waves that you enter into in hypnosis are similar to, but not exactly, but similar to your same type of brainwave state that you go into at sleep at night through your REM sleep, your rapid eye movement. That is the key part of your sleep, the rapid eye movement. And it only accounts for about 20% of your sleep cycle. But if we're not sleeping at night through whatever we know is happening, obviously my situation, it was, extremely stressful. But if you're not sleeping at night through feelings of anxiety, or, perhaps you're sleeping too much as well, it helps us to kind of start to empty what I like to call a stress bucket. We all have that stress bucket in our minds, that metaphorical stress bucket. The REM sleep and the trance, they do that same thing. They start to empty out that bucket so that we've got more room in that bucket, more capacity for us to be able to cope with our life situations, to cope with our circumstances, and to cope better with life.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. Even just hearing you talk about it, you can hear almost the shift within you too. The way that you start to speak and I guess come into that state a little bit yourself.
Yeah.
The
it's a great job.
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. It's kind of it's like a massage for your mind, a spa for your mind. And I get that to do that every day. So I'm incredibly blessed. Yeah.
So we've touched on maybe one use kind of like around anxiety and depression, but where else might you use hypnotherapy? Like what might people come to you for?
Oh my goodness. There's an array of things. So yeah, so my main reason that people come to see me is for anxiety-based conditions and symptoms, which can also include things like panic attacks and kind of IBS type symptoms and those physical symptoms as well. But also things like anger issues, frustration, obviously grief and bereavement, OCD. There is an array of things. Performance anxiety, that could be sports performance, it could be career performance, it could be exam performance if you're a student. There is so much that I don't think I could actually do it justice to list everything. Confidence, self-belief, quietening down that inner critic, moving you forward from, perhaps you might not be sure about, the directions you want to take in life. But actually, when we start to talk about that and start to, envisage what that might look like, then we can start to goal set and take those small steps in that direction. So there is so much that actually it can help, so much. And I probably haven't said everything. Phobias, fears, lots.
So if someone's listening to this and thinking, oh my goodness, I need to try this now, like I am someone that I can immediately think of something that hypnotherapy could help me, where would you suggest that someone starts?
Okay. Well, there are so many different types of hypnotherapy. What I offer is only one. So what I do is not right for every single person, because, it has to feel right for you. So there is a directory, which is a hypnotherapy directory, which obviously I'm on that as well, which will list, reputable hypnotherapists. But obviously, if solution focused work is something that people are interested in, then I am, obviously very happy to have conversations with people outside of this. And, you can find me on Instagram as well if you wanted to reach out. I'll probably give you my details. You can pop them in the show notes.
We're going to link all of that up in the show notes as well, so that if you are thinking, I want to know more about this from Jools, then we'll have like her website and her social links in the show notes. So Jools, and we're going to do a few quick fire questions. Are you up for that?
Oh my goodness. Let me take a drink of water.
So it's just kind of like a few words or a couple of sentences. And it's the idea that you are giving us a little glimpse into your inner journey and practices and kind of where the magic has been within you. Okay.
I love that.
Okay. So first one, if you could go back and give your 18-year-old self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
18-year-old me. I think for me, it would be, don't focus on what other people think. Don't focus on other people's views or opinions of you. Have the self-belief to take yourself in the direction that you want to go, that feels right for you, 100%. And surround yourself with people who light you up, who celebrate your wins with you. That's really important as well, like who we surround ourselves with. We often refer to people, don't we, as like radiators or drains, and you kind of feel a little bit when you've been with someone who's perhaps of a negative mindset, and they can sometimes bring you down. Be with the people that light you up, that make you feel good, that support you, that are in your corner. So I think that's very important with friendship groups when you're young, when you're 18. Not just going with the crowd, just be yourself.
I love authentic. That other people's shoulds and shouldn't rule your life, and I think we're so susceptible to that when we're younger.
Oh my goodness, we are very much so.
So next one is biggest tool, skill, experience that has helped you change from that 18-year-old self?
Oh my goodness, there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. There's something I do daily, which is journaling. I love journaling. I'm a massive advocate of it. Just really to help get your thoughts out onto paper. When they're out of your mind,
Yeah.
but also not just kind of to focus on what the problem might be, putting it down on paper, and that's great. And I do tell my clients, to do that, write it out, but also to be able to kind of visualize how you want to be. Visualization, if I knew about this years ago, my goodness, I wonder what direction my life would have taken. Not that I have regrets, because I don't, at all. But visualization is so important and so key to getting us to where we want to be. And we know this through, if you think about champion athletes, and Premiership footballers, they have visualized time and time again putting that ball in the back of that net. They've visualized it till, they actually go up to take the penalty. They've done that hundreds and hundreds of times in their mind. So when they actually do it, it's, it's natural to them. Your brain will store that. It's almost like, I don't like the term fake it till you make it. I kind of like believe it till you are it, 100%. But it's about trying to think about how you want to be, how you want to feel. And you can write that out into it. That's why I say it, into a journaling, scripting.
I love that. I think the power for me in visualization is that your brain can't tell what's real and what's imaginary. So if you're going to tell yourself stories, they may as well be better stories.
Exactly. 100%. That is crucial, because the brain cannot tell the difference between imagination and reality. So, what you let in, becomes your reality ultimately. So tell yourself the good stuff. Tell yourself how you want to be, how you want to feel. Write it down and step into that.
So I think you've answered that's currently what you're using. So, you're like, as a practice, as a daily habit and things. So last couple of bits for you, Jules. What is inspiring you right now, lighting you up in your life?
Oh my gosh, my clients. Oh my goodness, my clients. Legend. They just inspire me every day. And like we said before, like, you just don't realize how amazing you can actually be, and the things you can actually do when you have the right mindset, when you do the inner work, to actually work with my clients every day and seeing their transformations in such a short space of time, because that's one of the key things about solution focused hypnotherapy. It's short, it's brief. It is quick. We are not going to be seeing me for months and months and months, and if you are, I'm not doing my job properly. You'll be seeing me from anywhere between 8 and 12 sessions, sometimes slightly less, but seeing people's transformations within those weeks, and the things they're able to achieve and overcome fears and overcome, phobias. And some people come to me with debilitating life circumstances which actually do hold them back. I had a client who was not able to get into her car. She had a traumatic event around a car situation, and she wasn't able to drive at all. And she used to drive everywhere. And we worked on this over a course of 4 sessions. And she actually felt so liberated being able to get in a car and drive. She booked a spa weekend with her girlfriends and she drove. And then she had to go and actually buy a new car, because she was using her husband's car all the time. And he was like, come on now, this is ridiculous. So she had to go and buy a new car for herself. And it's changed her life. She wasn't having panic attacks every time she got in a car. So to change somebody's life, as in to give them the tools to enable them to change it, That's the key, because that's all I do. I just give them the tools and they go away and do it. It's fabulous. So they inspire me every day.
Amazing. So, Jules, what are you currently working on for yourself? Is anything still feeling like a bit of a challenge for you right now?
Gosh, I think mum life is always a challenge. The juggling act is real. But I think as well, it's kind of overcoming my own fears, because even though I'm a therapist, like, we all have, things that we need to work on. So just by you asking me to come on this podcast, for which I'm really grateful, this is me pushing myself outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
This is something that I don't normally do. So actually, to do this now, is me stepping into that. And it's kind of, I don't want to be held back by my fear of showing up and being able to share my message and the wonderful thing that is solution focused hypnotherapy. I want to be out there explaining to people how life-changing this is. So for me to be able to be here with you and to talk about it, this is me literally showing up through my fear and just kind of stepping out of that comfort zone a bit. And thank you for helping me and encouraging me to do that, because I'm really grateful, because I've done it and I'm going to feel amazing after this.
And we really appreciate it.
Oh,
and just to reiterate, Jules, where can people find out more about you? Obviously, we'll get some links in the show notes, but if you do just want to share where we can find you on social media.
Yeah, of course. So my main platform is Instagram, and I am discovery_hypnotherapy on there. I also have a website, which is www.discoveryhypnotherapy.co.uk. And there's links in there if you wanted to click in and make contact with me or drop me a DM on my Instagram. I am always more than happy to talk about hypnotherapy and all the wonderful things it can do.
Yes, get in touch with her if you have enjoyed today's episode. And again, Jules, I want to say thank you so much for sharing everything today. It has been a wonderful experience for me, and I hope so for you too. And thank you. Thank you so much for joining me in today's episode. If you enjoyed it, then please subscribe and rate the podcast, and share this episode with a friend to grow our circle. Plus, stay in touch with me by subscribing to my mailing list, where you'll get your free 7-day getting started plan, as well as weekly thoughts, updates, and chats. I love doing this with you and sharing the struggles, laughs, and wins along the way. So thank you so much for being here. And until next time, remember, we are the plan.